Welcome back to MFO, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I've read the book B.A.S.S and was intrigued by it, and intrigued by the reasons that Ray Scott had for starting this. Now, he saw the opportunities, but he also recognized that there were things going on, in fishing tournaments prior to bass coming along that were just, almost, I would use the word corrupt, cheating and frozen fish being weighed in and all sorts of, atrocities. And he said, hey, if we can come up with a circuit that's going to show and have integrity, we can make this thing into something that's truly special. And for so many years, bass was truly special. And what we see going on now is I just feel like Ray Scott would be turning over in his grave if he was seeing some of these things. Specifically, I'm talking about what's going on in the opens currently. So we'll talk more about that when we come back. Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher. What I'm talking about specifically has to do with what's happening in the opens. The opens came up with a new format. Terrific. There's two divisions, Division 1, Division 2. If you make the top 50 in either of those divisions, you go and fish the next EQ qualifiers. The Bass Elite guys can automatically get into that along with the top 50, and they're going to fish to end up qualifying for the elites. All of that is fine. So they lay it out, they lay out the rules, they get people to send in their deposits with a set of rules that talks about information and says, hey, there's a 30-day off limits policy, 28 to 30 days off limits. You can't get information within that time in front of each tournament. And guys know what the rules are when they pay their money. And then all of a sudden, a newsletter or a weekly kind of letter comes out to the guys that have paid their money and that are in the opens. And all of a sudden, the information says, hey, as of this date, you can't get information for any of the upcoming tournaments. You can't change the rules in the middle of the game. And that's what this does. Now, granted, I get it, guys. I'm trying to explain, because it's not like crystal clear transparent. But if I happen to, the way this presents it out is that if I happen to have went and got information for Rayburn and Kentucky Lake and Leech Lake and the different lakes, if I did that information, if I made phone calls and got information in, say, December for all of those lakes, I now have more information than a guy who took the approach and said, hey, you know what? In December, I'm just going to get information from my buddies who are around Sam Rayburn. And then when I'm done with Sam Rayburn, I'll call my buddies that live around Kentucky Lake and I'll get that information. It'll be more relevant and it's within the rules. So if you had a strategy like that, this letter that comes out in the beginning of January just cut you off at the knees. You are now out of luck. You can't get information for any of the tournaments. However, the guy who chose to make all of those phone calls in December, he got that information and he's legal because the rules changed in January for something that you paid your money in December, and no one knew that the rule was going to change in the middle. I understand the need to look at your rules, evaluate them, and say, hey, we got a loophole here. We want to plug that loophole. Here's how we can do it. But if you have to do that, you go, okay, fine, we're going to change the rules. In 2026, we're not going to, we see the problem and we know that we got a problem, but we can't change it now because it's going to cause an unfair advantage to guys who decided one thing versus the other. changing the rule. Can you imagine playing a baseball game and in the fifth inning, all of a sudden the rules change that says that, hey, from this point forward, not only fifth inning, but in the middle, you got a guy on second, and all of a sudden the rules of baseball change. And if there's a man on second, he automatically gets to go to third no matter what. You don't change that in the middle of the game without it being fair to both sides or being fair to everybody involved. There is no integrity in that. And it's a lack of insight. It's a lack of kind of, hey, we got an idea, but let's check this out with people who know, and let's check out before we present this idea, put it in writing and email it out to 230 guys. Let's make sure that there's nothing that's going to blow back on us. I don't get it. It's frustrating, and it just adds more to this. Tournament fishing just gets a bum rap, and we need a Ray Scott. We need a Ray Scott to come in and say, we're going to run it this way. We're going to think twice. That adage, we're going to measure twice, cut once, kind of an approach. So guys, tell me what you think about this. I know I've been ranting and raving a little bit, but it's frustrating, and I know there's a lot of guys on the opens that have been frustrated about this too. Appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, that would really help out the channel a lot. Send us your comments, and we will see you tomorrow for another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody.